Howdy.
Great.
Yeah.
Questions? Matt?
Couple guys, Schooler, Dye, Hunt, said that there's a group of players that don't care anymore, win or lose. Do you get a sense of that at all? How do you handle that, if even if you don't see it, but players are talking about it?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a byproduct of just the situation last night, the frustration. Obviously, those guys are competitive guys that are very frustrated, and any 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 behavior by somebody else that doesn't match theirs, or isn't totally with everything we're trying to do, is going to be read through that lens. But certainly there's guys, there are guys at this point in the season that aren't doing necessarily everything that we want them to do, and that's the case whether your record is flipped or you're undefeated. And in this situation, it's just that much more frustrating. But by the same token, those are things that we need to address in-house and take care of them in-house and talk about them in-house, and we will. That's obviously a thing that we'll address this week.
Crystal?
After taking some time to digest the film in that Washington game, problems on offense, defense, are these new problems you're really seeing, or is it just kind of, is it like a new problem every week, or is it just kind of the same things over and over that the team just isn't grasping?
No, I think some things are consistent. Some things are different, but that's definitely something that we'll look at this week. How much of it, whether the lack of execution in any phase, how much of that's driven by scheme, and whether that's too much. Trying to ask somebody to do something they're not totally confident in, teaching it a different way, and then going out and executing it. Some of that may be personnel driven by who's in there, and changing that up a little bit. So it's always again, it's a combination of factors.
Joey?
After seeing the film, what'd you think of Justin Herbert in his first career start?
I thought he made some plays that were really good. He made some throws that were big time plays that we had an opportunity to make. And that's as a receiver or tailback or a tight end or whoever, when that guy goes in there for the first time, you got to ratchet up your detail that much more, and whether it's a route depth or a landmark, an angle, those kind of things. But very impressed by his reaction to that first play under those circumstances. And I think again he's got a big future.
Schedule this week and what you feel like you guys need to get out of it, what the priorities are?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, just getting everybody on the same page. Part of that, going back to that first question, improving our mental and psychological health as much as our physical health is job one. Removing any doubt or lack of confidence in anything, and we've got plenty of that right now. Just as far as again the execution and what again, whether we're trying to do too much in certain areas or too little, and who's in there, and just building true confidence to play faster, play better, play. We'll practice Tuesday and Thursday, and lift Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and some other conditioning stuff.
Both you and Lubick were saying that you guys wanted to put Herbert in for more of a offensive spark. Was there something that Prukop wasn't giving you guys that you guys wanted to get out of Herbert a little more so?
Well, if we're looking back on it on things, there were some things there were some plays there to be made, opportunities to be made, and that's always a little bit of a gamble of how much you think you're going to get a spark from your team, how much of a difference that's going to make. Again, I thought he made some plays that weren't there last night that were big time plays. That the touchdown to Tony James was a great play. Touchdown to Taj Griffin was a busted protection. He had the drag route to Charles Nelson that again that we had a little breakdown in protection, and an extra defender in a kind of a naked hot situation. That was a big time play. So I think he provided that spark last week, and now our execution has to pick up in special teams, on defense, and throughout the offense, including him going forward.
Justin said he was really nervous going into that game. Did you ever get a sense that he was, and maybe at what point did he maybe settle down and just play football from your interactions on the sideline?
Yeah, he had that. Obviously that we talked to him in pregame, and he's not a real boisterous guy, but he's a competitive guy, and you can see when it's time to compete, he's excited about that, and we're trying to just gauge him and settle him down. The first throw was just a matter of just again trusting what he saw, and he saw it great. His timing was great, and he just hesitated. Most times that ball's incomplete, or just broken up. But he bounced back from that. I thought the big play for him, the drag route that he threw to Johnny Munt was a big time throw as well into a very tight window, and so I think that kind of got it totally back for him. I don't think he ever lost it. There was one series in there where again he took a couple shots in the previous series and his feet were a little off and a little quick, but that's going to be the case of a fifth-year senior.
Kristen?
There have been a lot of former Oregon players kind of weighing in on the state of the program, I guess you could say. And it's something that we've talked about before, but this idea that maybe there's a spoiled mindset with some of the younger guys, and it's something, Matt talked about earlier, just about how this team needs to this is their outside perspective, again, former players, but how this team just kind of needs to get back into really buying in and working hard to get those wins. Want to know, one, if you see any of that, because it was kind of all over social media last night, and then two, if you feel like the culture or the mindset of the younger guys has changed over the past few years. That's
been something that we've had to deal with every single year since I've been here. Every single year, our guys, we always tell them in recruiting, we're going to support them unconventionally, and they have to work unconventionally, and that will never change. Again, the gigantic program, this program that. I mean, there's a lot of teams in the country right now that were expected to be at a certain level and aren't, and there's different reasons for that. We had our shots early to win a couple games that didn't go our way, and now everything's on the table as far as why that is. But we need to coach them better. They need to work harder, work smarter, and execute more cleanly on Saturdays or Friday nights.
What about the touchdown to Tony? Because both he and Justin said that they were joking earlier in the week that there was a 0% chance Tony would catch a touchdown on that play because he was essentially a decoy. So when you're grading a play like that, do you say, hey, touchdown, it was a success? Or do you have any questions about a throw after the fact to a guy who wasn't necessarily an intended target?
Right. Well, the initial coverage was such that guy was not going to get the ball. And then that was, again, a great play of kind of buying some time after a guy flashing in front of him and keeping big eyes downfield, which, again, is a good sign for a young guy. A lot of times that ball's tucked away and you're trying to survive or throw it away or run out of bounds. And to have kind of that field vision to make that play was big.
Joey?
Penalties have been down the last couple of weeks for you guys. Have you been happier with the way that the discipline, I guess, of the team has been? And did they get that message that you wanted to instill a couple weeks ago?
Yes and no. I mean, I'd like to see if you guys finish a little bit more. That's where, again, that's that fine line of you don't want the stupid, undisciplined couple that we had, but that edge of playing, you got to get to that edge, and we could play around that a little bit more. That'd be okay.
Back right.
What'd you see from the offensive line, both pass and run blocking, after watching the tape against one of the better fronts in the Pac-12, if not the nation?
Mixed. They did some good things very well. Had some stuff. Unfortunately, probably I don't know if we would have scored a touchdown, but jumped on that fourth and 2. Just again a communication thing. Would have had a huge play, big first down, if not a touchdown, and had a couple of those instances where those kind of false starts bit us, but did a decent job containing them. Just initially, also got smoked a few times, and we'll have to take our licks and get better from it.
Matt?
Kind of going back a couple years maybe, but do you remember when you first found out about Justin Herbert, and maybe when you guys first got really interested in saying, hey, this might be a guy that we need to look at, he could play here?
I don't remember that exact moment. There's obviously talk and buzz around different people, certainly in the community that knew about, hey, this guy coming up, and even as a freshman in high school and a multi-sport guy, and so it goes that far back of guys knowing, hey, this guy's, I think the gist of it was, hey, this guy's going to be something, whether it's a whatever position, outside linebacker, tight end, quarterback, that far back, guys talking about, hey, when you see this guy X years from now, it's gonna happen. So it was a long kind of a legend.
Kind of piggybacking off of that last question. Did you kind of see him in high school as a guy who could come in and contribute right away, or was he more of a project kind of coming in?
We never really, we don't really try to necessarily recruit too many straight projects at that position. I think there's guys maybe at kind of outside linebacker, tight end, DN, tailback, receiver, guys that you can project, or offensive linemen that are just undersized guys that are going to develop. Always loved his release. He has a very clean release, and he's a competitive guy, being a multi-sport guy and excelling at all sports. He's been a winner, and so those kind of things excite you about a guy that could potentially be your quarterback. What are you going to be for Halloween? I need to ask one question.
Patrick, what are you going to be for Halloween?
A Ninja Turtle.
The turtle,
Nice.
coach. Kristen?
Which Ninja Turtle? I know
Red one.
that's a good answer. Since you guys are taking the bye week to, you're not really focusing on, or I guess you guys aren't focusing on Cal yet. Yes.
We will. It's much more about us, but there will be certainly introductory stuff on both practice days. Yeah.
And because you guys do, you always say that you focus on yourselves a lot during the games. You're always worried most about yourselves during game weeks. How much does what you do practice, or what you do at practice, change, I guess, in a bye week compared to a normal game week?
It'll be we'll go against ourselves the whole time, so it'll be more of a spring ball type of a scenario where it's ones versus ones, twos versus twos, and threes versus threes. And so instead of we won't split into scout teams yet until our game week prep.
Good. Great.
All right, thanks.
Coach.